Today is the story of a woman who rose from the ashes of humiliation stronger than ever before. Amara stood by the window, watching the rain. The drops streamed down the glass, merging into uneven paths that looked like tears. Her own tears had long since dried up over the last 6 months. She had cried out everything she had. "You're still stuffing your face?" Darius's voice cut through the air from the hallway, sharp and filled with undisguised contempt. Amara flinched, instinctively covering her bowl of oatmeal with her hand. It was just oatmeal. No butter, no sugar. But even this was too much for her husband. "It's just breakfast," she answered quietly, not turning around. "Breakfast," Darius mimicked, walking into the kitchen. "Take a look at yourself. You've turned into a cow. I can't stand touching you." The words struck their target precisely. Amara knew she had gained weight. 5 years had passed since Caleb was born, but her weight had never returned to what it was. She had tried. She tried diets, went to the gym, but the stress and constant tension in the family only made things worse. Every evening she promised herself she would start a new life on Monday, but every Monday brought new disappointments. "I'm trying," she whispered, feeling everything inside her contract into a painful knot. "Trying?" Darius scoffed, pouring himself a cup of coffee. 20 years ago when we met, you were gorgeous. Every guy would turn his head. And now I'm embarrassed to go out in public with you." This wasn't the first time he'd said this. Over the past year, those words had become as habitual as the morning coffee. Amara remained silent, staring into her bowl. Once she would have argued, defended herself, but now she had no strength left. Darius finished his coffee and glanced at his watch. "I have to go. I'll be late tonight." "Another meeting?" Amara asked, even though she already knew the answer. "Yeah," he threw out curtly and left. Without even saying goodbye, the door slammed shut and Amara was left alone in the empty apartment. Caleb had gone to overnight camp a week ago, and the house felt especially quiet. She slowly finished the oatmeal, though her appetite was gone. Then she stood up and looked at her reflection in the hall mirror, a round face, a double chin, and wide hips beneath a shapeless housecoat. When had she stopped recognizing herself? When had she stopped being that girl who used to light up dance floors and gather admiring glances? Darius's phone vibrated on the table. He had forgotten it. Amara automatically looked at the screen and saw a message from Tiffany. "Sweetheart, waiting for you at my place tonight. I miss you so much." Her heart plummeted. Her hands began to tremble. Amara opened the phone. She knew the password. Darius never thought it necessary to change it. The correspondence was long, frank, and full of the tenderness and passion that had been missing from her life with Darius for years. Tiffany, 26 years old, a secretary at his office, thin, vibrant, with long legs in the photos. Everything Amara no longer was. Amara sank onto a chair, still clutching the phone. Inside her there was no fury, no urge to scream. There was only emptiness, a cold, all-consuming void. She put the phone back and went into the bedroom. She took out an old photo album from the closet. Here was their wedding. She was in a white dress, slender and happy. Here was Caleb's birth. Here was their last vacation together, 3 years ago. When did everything change? When did she become invisible to her own husband? That evening, Darius returned late, close to midnight. Amara was awake, lying in the darkness, staring at the ceiling. She heard him undress quietly in the hallway, trying not to make noise, and then walk into the bathroom. The scent of a stranger's perfume wafted through the air. "You're awake?" he asked, surprised, as he entered the bedroom. "Can't sleep," Amara replied in a flat voice. Darius lay down on his side of the bed, turning toward the wall. There was nearly a yard of distance between them, but it felt like an abyss. "Darius," she called softly. "What?" "I'm tired, Amara." "You forgot your phone this morning." A silence hung between them. Amara felt his body tense and his voice become cautious. "A message came through. I saw it." Darius abruptly sat up in bed and turned on the nightlight. His face was pale but not guilty, rather irritated. "You read my messages?" It was on the screen. Amara sat up too. Tiffany, how long? Darius ran a hand over his face and then laughed. A short, nervous sound. 6 months, maybe more. What's the difference? What's the difference? Amara repeated, feeling something she had long thought dead begin to boil inside her. You've been cheating on me for 6 months, and you ask, what's the difference? What did you expect? Darius turned to her, cold anger in his eyes. Look at yourself. Look what you've become. You stopped taking care of yourself. You stopped being a woman. You're just furniture, comfortable, habitual furniture. Each word struck like a slap. I gave birth to your child. Amara's voice trembled. I raised him. I ran the house. I worked. And you kept eating everything in sight, Darius interrupted. Don't make excuses. Tiffany is 10 years younger than you, but she finds time for the gym, for herself. She wants to be desirable. And you? When was the last time you put on anything other than those sacks? Amara was silent. The words were stuck in her throat. I'm leaving, Darius suddenly said. I can't live like this anymore. She's expecting a baby, my baby, and I want to be with her. The world crashed down. It simply took and crashed in a single moment. What? Amara gasped. You heard me. I'm moving out in a couple of days. The condo is yours. I'm not greedy. I'll pay child support for Caleb, but I need to live my life, Amara, and I don't have a future with you. He lay back down and turned off the light, as if he had just been discussing the weather, not destroying 20 years of shared life. Amara sat in the darkness, unable to move. Everything inside was numb. She didn't cry. There were no tears. There was only emptiness, so deep that she felt she might fall into it and disappear. In the morning, Darius packed his suitcase. He did it quickly, efficiently, not looking at his wife. Amara stood in the bedroom doorway, silently watching the man with whom she had spent more than half her adult life walk out of it. I'll be back in a week for the rest of my things, he muttered, zipping the suitcase. When I get back, I want everything gone. I'll talk to Caleb myself when he gets back from his grandparents. How are you going to tell your son that you left his mother for a girl who's young enough to be your daughter? Amara asked quietly. I'll tell him the truth, that people change, that love fades. He's little, he'll get over it. Kids get used to everything. Darius picked up the suitcase and headed for the door. Goodbye, Amara. Don't be angry. This is better for everyone. The door closed. Amara heard the elevator descend, taking her past with it. Amara spent the first 3 days in a daze. She got up, mechanically made herself breakfast that she couldn't eat, wandered the apartment, and stared out the window. The world outside continued its normal life. People rushed to work, children played in the yard, music played somewhere. But her world had stopped. She didn't call her friends. She didn't want to hear sympathy in their voices, or advice that wouldn't help anyway. She didn't want to see pity in their eyes. Poor Amara, her husband left her over her weight. She could already hear those words in her head, spoken in different voices. On the 4th day, she finally left the apartment. She needed to buy groceries. The fridge was empty. Amara pulled on jeans, which struggled to button over her midriff, grabbed a spacious tunic and her purse, and went outside. The grocery store was 2 blocks away. On the way, she ran into her neighbor, Cheryl, with whom she sometimes chatted by the building entrance. Amara, Cheryl called out, haven't seen you in ages. How are you? Fine. Amara forced a smile. Where's Darius? I haven't run into him lately. He left. For work. Amara lied, quickly walking past without giving her a chance to continue the conversation. At the store, she mechanically threw items into her cart. Whole grain rice, milk, bread, eggs. Passing the bakery section, she stopped. On the shelf were her favorite pastries, custard eclairs. Darius used to make a remark every time he saw them in the fridge. You're fat enough already, and you're eating that garbage too. Amara grabbed a box of 6 eclairs and put it in the cart. Then she grabbed another, a packet of cookies, and dark, bitter chocolate, the kind she loved in college. At home, she sat down at the table and ate 3 eclairs in a row, then 2 more. The sweet cream melted in her mouth, and for a few minutes the pain receded. But then it crashed back in a wave, even stronger, along with self-loathing. That's why he left. Because you can't even stop yourself. Amara looked at the empty box and finally wept. She wept bitterly, sobbing as she hadn't since childhood. Tears streamed down her face, dripping onto the table, onto her hands. She wept for the lost years, for the unfulfilled hopes, for the fact that no one would ever hold her again and tell her they loved her. The phone rang. Amara wiped her face and looked at the screen. It was Darius's mother, Patricia Leake. The woman had never particularly liked her daughter-in-law, believing her son deserved a better match. "Hello?" Amara answered. "Amara, it's me." The mother-in-law's voice was cold. "Darius told me everything. I want to take my grandson for the summer. He shouldn't see you in this state." "What state?" Amara asked quietly. "Darius said you've let yourself go completely, that you have depression. The boy doesn't need that. I will pick up Caleb directly from Denise's house when he finishes his visit there. You and Darius can sort yourselves out, but leave the boy out of it." "You don't have the right." "I have the right to care for my grandson," Patricia interrupted. "Darius is right. He needs to start a new life. And you? You have only yourself to blame, Amara. You should have taken care of yourself." The line went dead. Her mother-in-law had hung up. Amara put the phone on the table and stared blankly. So that was it. Everyone was against her. They even wanted to take Caleb away, as if she were a leper. She stood up and went to the hall mirror. She looked at herself with a long, careful gaze. A face swollen from tears, dull hair pulled into a careless ponytail, a stretched-out tunic that hinted at the folds on her stomach. You have only yourself to blame. Maybe they were right? Maybe she was really to blame for everything? Maybe if she hadn't gained weight, if she had stayed that thin girl, Darius wouldn't have left, wouldn't have fallen in love with that Tiffany with the long legs and flat stomach. Amara returned to the kitchen and took out her laptop. She opened social media and found Darius's page. He wasn't hiding their relationship. There she was, Tiffany, tall, slender, with bright red lips and a dazzling white smile. They were hugging against a backdrop of the ocean, drinking coffee at a cafe, laughing as they looked into each other's eyes. In the last photo, posted 2 days ago, Tiffany stood in a tight dress and a small belly was visible. The caption read, "Our happiness will be arriving soon. Hundreds of likes, comments. Congratulations, such a beautiful couple. Happiness to you." Amara closed the laptop. Her hands were shaking. A wave of fury rose inside her, so strong that she wanted to scream, smash dishes, destroy everything around her. But she didn't. Instead, she opened the refrigerator again, took out the last eclair, and ate it, staring into the void. Then she went into the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror for a long time. Swollen cheeks, a double chin, a spreading figure. When did this happen? When did she stop being herself? She remembered 20 years ago when Darius saw her at a college party, how he walked up to her, asked her to dance, how they danced all night, how he told her she was the most beautiful girl in the world. She remembered him proposing to her on the roof of their dorm under the stars, promising to love her all her life, for better or for worse. She remembered the long, hard labor, how Darius held her hand and told her she was the strongest woman he knew, how he cried with joy when he saw Caleb. When did it all change? Gradually, probably. The first pounds after the birth, then a few more. Sleep deprivation, stress, constant fatigue, the daily grind that sucked her in like a swamp. Work, home, child. There was no time to think about herself. And when time did appear, Amara simply collapsed from exhaustion. Darius also changed. He worked more, stayed out later, hugged and kissed less, and criticized more often. At first softly, with humor, "You should probably hit the gym. That dress won't fit." Then more harshly, "You're getting fat." Then with contempt, "I'm disgusted by you." And she believed him. She believed she was to blame, that she wasn't trying hard enough, that she was a bad wife. Amara returned to the kitchen and sat down at the table. She pulled out a notepad and a pen. She began to write a list. What to do next? 1. Divorce. 2. Child support. 3. Job. 4. Caleb. 5. Me. She stared at the last point for a long time. Me. Who is she now? A dumped wife, a single mother, a fat failure who was left for a younger woman? No, that wasn't all she was. Once she had been different. Once she had dreams, plans, goals. What happened to that girl who wanted to open her own interior design studio, who sketched out ideas and dreamed of big projects? She drowned in domestic life, in motherhood, in trying to please a husband who left anyway. Amara suddenly stood up, walked into the bedroom, and opened Darius's closet. Suits, shirts, ties, everything neatly hung up, pressed. She had always taken care of his wardrobe, ironed his shirts, dry-cleaned his suits. She started throwing his things onto the floor, one after another. The suit he wore for their anniversary last year. The shirt she gave him for his birthday. The tie he wore to Caleb's preschool graduation. The clothes fell to the floor, forming a shapeless pile. Amara stopped, breathing heavily. What was she doing? What was the point? She sank to the floor next to the pile of clothes and began to cry again, quietly, without sobbing. The tears just flowed, and she made no effort to stop them. The next day, Amara woke up with a clear head. Something inside her had switched overnight. She no longer wanted to lie there and feel sorry for herself. She no longer wanted to be a victim. She got up, took a shower, truly washing herself and her hair for the first time in a week. Then she took Darius's old robe out of the closet and carried it, along with the entire pile of clothes, to the hallway. Later, she would take it to Goodwill or just toss it. She didn't care. Amara called her job. She worked as an accountant for a mid-sized real estate development company and had been on medical leave for the last 2 weeks. The doctor had diagnosed her with nervous exhaustion. "Hello, Miss Vance, it's Amara. I'm coming back tomorrow." "Amara, are you sure? Maybe you should rest a bit more," her boss asked kindly. "No, I need to work. Thank you for your understanding." Work was what would distract her, what would give her some sense of normalcy. After the call, Amara sat down at the computer and started researching divorce. The procedure, the documents, the timeline. It turned out that with a minor child, divorce had to go through court. She needed to file a petition, gather documents, and establish a visitation schedule. She wrote down the number of an attorney who specialized in family law. She would call tomorrow to schedule a consultation. Then she checked their bank account. Her and Darius's account was joint, but there wasn't much money left in it, about $40,000. Darius had likely withdrawn most of it before leaving. Amara transferred the money to her own card. It was her money too. She had worked and contributed to the family. The apartment was in her name. It had been left to her by her parents, who died 10 years ago. At least some stability. Amara looked at Caleb's photo on the shelf. A blonde, smiling 5-year-old boy, her son, the one person who definitely loved her, and she would not let her mother-in-law take him. She wouldn't allow it. She dialed the number of her cousin Denise, where Caleb was visiting. "Denise! Hey, how's my boy?" "Amara," her cousin said happily. "Oh, he's great. We went to the park, ate ice cream. He asks when his dad is coming. What should I tell him?" Amara swallowed the lump in her throat. "Tell him his dad is busy. I'll explain everything myself when I pick him up. Denise, I need to warn you about something. Patricia Leak might call and ask you to hand Caleb over to her. Please don't." "What happened?" Denise sounded alarmed. "Darius left me for someone else, and his mother now wants to take her grandson." A silence hung on the line. "Oh my God, Amara, why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I couldn't. Denise, just don't give Caleb to anyone but me. I'll be there soon in a couple of days." "Okay, of course, honey, of course. Come on over. We'll wait for you here." After the conversation, Amara felt a measure of relief. Caleb was safe. That was the main thing. She walked into the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, and looked at the remnants of the eclairs, the chocolate, the cookies. Amara stood, staring at all the indulgence. Then she resolutely grabbed a garbage bag and threw everything into the trash. "Enough!" she said aloud. "Enough of feeling sorry for myself and eating away my problems." She picked up her phone and found the nearest fitness club online. A membership wasn't cheap, but right now, it was the most important thing. She signed up for a trial class tomorrow evening. Then she found a support group for women going through divorce. Online meetings every Tuesday and Thursday. Amara registered. Maybe there she would find people who understood. By evening, she had a plan ready. It was clear and structured. 1. Go back to work. 2. File for divorce through an attorney. 3. Get Caleb back. 4. Start exercising. 5. Find a therapist. 6. Get back to myself. The last point was the most important and the most frightening. Get back to myself. To the girl who believed in her own strength, who dreamed and achieved goals. Amara went to bed early. For the first time in many days, her sleep was deep, without nightmares or waking up in the middle of the night. She woke up at 7 a.m., did a simple 15-minute workout she found online. Her muscles ached, her body felt uncooperative, but she finished. Then she had breakfast, oatmeal with an apple and green tea. At work, her colleagues greeted her cautiously, with sympathy in their eyes. Ms. Vance called her into her office. "Amara, how are you? Maybe you need more rest?" "Ms. Vance, I'm fine. Really, I need to work." Her boss looked at her intently. "All right, but if anything is wrong, tell me. And one more thing. I have a friend. She's a therapist, a good one. Here are her contact details if you need them." Amara took the business card and thanked her. The unexpected kindness brought tears to her eyes, but she held them back. Work was a distraction. Numbers, reports, transactions. None of it required emotion, just a routine. It was calming and familiar. That evening, Amara went to the fitness club. The trial class was a group session, something between aerobics and stretching. She stood in the back of the room, self-conscious in her baggy sweatpants and t-shirt. All around her were slender women in bright leggings, confidently doing the exercises. "Don't be shy. Move at your own pace," the instructor smiled. She was a woman in her 30s with a short haircut. "The main thing is to start." Amara started. It was hard. After just 10 minutes, she was breathless. Her face was red, and her t-shirt was sticking to her body with sweat. But she kept going. She slowed down when she absolutely couldn't keep up, but didn't stop. After the class, the instructor walked up to her. "How was it?" "Hard," Amara admitted honestly, wiping her face with a towel. "The first time is always hard, but you did great for not giving up. Come again. Believe me, it will be much easier in a month." At home, Amara showered and collapsed onto the bed. Her entire body ached, but it was a good ache. The pain of effort, not the pain of the soul. She picked up her phone and saw a text from Darius. "I'll be there Friday for my things. I'll be around 6 p.m. Short, businesslike, as if they were just neighbors, not people who had spent 20 years together. Amara put the phone down and looked at the ceiling. Friday, the day after tomorrow. That meant she had 2 days to prepare. Thursday flew by in a rush. Amara scheduled a consultation with the attorney, Marcus Cole, for Saturday, bought new sneakers for her workouts, and tidied up the condo. She methodically removed all traces of Darius's presence. Framed photos, his favorite coffee mug, the spare glasses he forgot on the nightstand. She put all of it into a box and placed it by the door. Let him take it and never come back. That evening, she had her first online support group meeting. Amara turned on her computer and joined the video conference. 7 women of different ages appeared on the screen, all with similar expressions. Tired, hurting, but with something else, too. Maybe hope. "Good evening," greeted the moderator, a woman in her 50s with a gentle voice. "We have a new member today. Tell us about yourself, if you're ready." Amara took a deep breath. "My name is Amara. My husband left a week ago for another woman. She's pregnant." The words came out with difficulty, but she continued. "He told me I was to blame, that I got fat, that he was disgusted by me. And I almost believed that it was true." "Almost?" the moderator repeated. Almost, Amara confirmed. But now I'm trying to get myself back. I don't know if I can, but I'm trying. The other women nodded in understanding. One of them, a red-haired woman in her 30s, spoke up. I have a similar story, except my ex left because I couldn't have a baby. He told me I was defective. For 2 years, I believed something was wrong with me, until I realized the problem isn't me. The problem is a person who humiliates his loved one. The meeting lasted an hour. Amara mostly listened, taking in the stories of the other women, their pain, their struggles, their small victories. For the first time in a long time, she felt that she wasn't alone, that her pain was understood, that she wasn't crazy, and she wasn't to blame. When the meeting ended, Amara felt lighter. Not much, but lighter. Friday began with a new class at the fitness club. This time, she chose something easier: yoga for beginners. The instructor, an older woman with gray hair and a calm voice, helped her into the correct poses and encouraged her. Don't compare yourself to others, she said. Only compare yourself to who you were yesterday. You are already better than you were yesterday, because you showed up. After class, Amara went to the cafe across the street from the club, ordered a vegetable salad and green tea. At the next table sat a group of young women. They were laughing and discussing something. One of them said something, and they all burst into laughter. Amara looked at them and wondered when she had last laughed like that, when she had felt light and carefree. She couldn't remember. She pulled out her phone and opened old photos. Here she was at a college party in a short dress with bright lipstick, laughing and hugging her friends. Here she was at graduation in a red dress, slender and happy. Here she was with Darius on their first vacation together, on the beach. She was in a bathing suit, toned and tan. That girl existed. She was real. Where had she gone? Amara closed the photos and looked at her reflection in the cafe's wall mirror. A round face, no makeup, hair pulled back, a sports jacket hid her figure. I'll find you, she promised her reflection softly. I promise. She returned home by 5 p.m. She had an hour before Darius arrived. Amara changed into jeans and a sweater, brushed her hair, and even put on a touch of light pink lipstick. Not for him, but for herself. She was sitting in the kitchen drinking tea when the doorbell rang. Exactly at 6 p.m., Amara opened it. Darius stood on the threshold with 2 large bags. He looked good. A fresh shirt, a new haircut. He had even lost a little weight. Hey, he said, walking in. I'm here for my things. I know. Amara stepped aside. Everything is boxed up by the closet. Darius walked into the bedroom. Amara remained in the kitchen, not wanting to watch him gather the last remnants of their life together. About 20 minutes passed. Darius came out with the stuffed bags. I think that's everything, he said, looking around. Darius, about the divorce. I've already looked into everything, she cut him off. I'm filing a petition on Monday. I want to officially set up child support for Caleb and define the visitation schedule. Darius frowned. You understand I have another family now. I can't pay as much as... You will pay whatever the court decides, Amara said firmly. Caleb is your son, and you are obligated to support him. Amara, don't make this difficult. Let's work this out like civilized people. Civilized? She scoffed. You left without even saying goodbye to your son. You called me a cow and said you were disgusted by me. Is that what you call civilized? Darius pursed his lips. I spoke in anger. You shouldn't take it so seriously. Just go, Darius, just go. My attorney will be in touch. He stood there, clearly wanting to say something, but changed his mind. He grabbed the bags and headed for the door. You know, he suddenly said at the door, I thought you'd be crying, begging me to come back, and you even look like you've lost weight. Go, Amara repeated. Darius shrugged and walked out. The door closed. Amara stood in the middle of the hallway, breathing deeply and slowly. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't collapse onto the floor. She just stood and breathed, and then she smiled. A weak smile, but she smiled. She had won the first round. She hadn't fallen apart. She hadn't begged. She hadn't shown weakness. Amara walked into the kitchen and sat down at the table. She opened the notebook where she kept her plan. Day 7. Darius picked up his things. I didn't cry. I am stronger than I thought. She closed the notebook and looked out the window. The sun was setting, painting the sky in orange and pink hues. A new life was just beginning. Saturday began with a trip to the attorney. Amara woke up early with a clear head and firm resolve. She put on a dark blue dress that she hadn't worn in 2 years. It was a little tight, but it zipped up. She styled her hair and put on makeup, looking at herself in the mirror and seeing changes. Small, barely noticeable, but they were there. Attorney Marcus Cole, a man in his 50s with graying temples and an attentive gaze, received her in his downtown office. "Tell me everything," he said, opening a notepad. Amara told him. Everything about the infidelity, the humiliation, the pregnant mistress, the mother-in-law's desire to take the child. She spoke calmly, without tears, stating the facts. Marcus Cole listened, taking notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "All right," he said when she finished. "The situation is unpleasant, but manageable. The condo is in your name. That's a plus. The child is a minor. A court almost always grants custody to the mother unless there are serious reasons otherwise. Child support is 25% of the father's income for one child. Visitation. We'll set a schedule according to your wishes." "And if his mother tries to sue for custody?" Amara asked. "Without grounds, she won't succeed. You are employed, you have housing, and your parental rights haven't been revoked. A grandmother can file a petition, but the chances are minimal. Don't worry about it." Amara felt a wave of relief. For the first time in a long time, she felt solid ground beneath her feet. "I will prepare the documents," Marcus Cole continued. "You'll need to gather your marriage certificate, Caleb's birth certificate, and the condo deed. We'll file the petition with the court next week." "Thank you." Amara stood up. "Thank you so much." Leaving the office, she felt like a warrior before a battle. She was scared, but she knew she would fight. For herself, for Caleb, for the right to a dignified life. After the meeting with the attorney, Amara drove to her cousin's house to pick up her son. Denise lived in a small suburban house with a garden. When Amara walked into the yard, Caleb was playing there with his cousins, chasing a ball, laughing, all red-faced from the heat and happy. "Mommy!" He rushed to her and hugged her legs. "You came!" Amara lifted him into her arms and held him tight. He smelled of summer, grass, and childhood sweat. "I came, my sweet boy. I missed you." "Where's Daddy? He didn't come." Amara looked at Denise. She nodded knowingly and led the other children inside. "Caleb." Amara sat down with her son on a bench. "We need to talk. Daddy is going to live separately from us now." "Why?" The boy's eyes widened. "Is he mad at me?" "No, sweetie, no." Amara hugged him. "This is not your fault at all. It just happens sometimes with grown-ups. Sometimes people can't live together. But Daddy loves you and will still see you." "And you? Do you still love him?" Caleb's voice trembled. "I love you more than anything in the world." Amara kissed the top of his head. "And I'm not going anywhere. Never. I promise." Caleb cried softly, burying his face in her shoulder. Amara stroked his back, fighting back her own tears. It was unfair. The boy didn't deserve this. It wasn't his fault that his father turned out to be selfish. That evening, they returned home. Caleb was quiet and thoughtful. Amara made his favorite pancakes with jam. They watched a cartoon together, and she tucked him into bed. "Mom, are we going to be okay without Daddy?" he asked as she covered him with a blanket. "We are," Amara said firmly. "I promise you, everything will be okay for us." When Caleb fell asleep, Amara went out onto the balcony. The night was warm, the air smelling of linden trees. Music played somewhere below. People were laughing. She pulled out her phone and texted Denise, "Thank you for everything. You supported me so much." The reply came almost immediately. "Always here. Sis, you're doing great. I'm proud of you." Amara smiled. Yes, she was doing great. She hadn't given up, hadn't fallen apart, and was continuing to live, fight, and move forward. On Sunday, she and Caleb went to the park, rode the rides, ate ice cream, and fed the ducks in the pond. The boy gradually thawed, laughing again, although a flash of anxiety sometimes crossed his eyes. "Mom, is Grandma Patricia going to visit us?" he asked when they were sitting on a bench. "I don't know, sweetie. Do you want her to?" Caleb shrugged. "She always says I eat wrong and play too loud." Amara sighed. Patricia had never known how to simply love her grandson. She was always criticizing, lecturing, and comparing him to other children. "If she comes, we'll see her. If not, it's okay. You have Aunt Denise and you have friends. We're not alone." Caleb nodded and ran back to the swings. Amara watched him and thought about the future. What could she give her son? Stability, love, support? That was enough. It had to be enough. That evening, after Caleb was asleep, Ms. Vance called Amara. "Amara, sorry to bother you on the weekend. I just wanted to tell you that I need someone for a new project, office design for a major client. You used to do that, right?" "Yes," Amara replied cautiously. "But that was a long time ago. 10 years before Caleb was born." "It doesn't matter. You have the degree, you have the taste. I saw your old portfolio when I hired you. The pay is good. It would be separate from your accounting salary. Think about it." "Okay." Amara hung up and pondered. Interior design. Her old dream. The reason she went to college. The thing she was passionate about once. She went to the storage closet and pulled out a box of her old work. Sketches, blueprints, photos of completed projects. An apartment for a young couple. An office for a startup. A child's room. All of it was a part of her. The part she had abandoned for her family. For domestic life. For a husband who left anyway. Amara ran her hand over one of the sketches. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe it's time to go back to what I loved. She took her phone and texted Ms. Vance. "I agree. Let's try it." Monday started with a new rhythm. Amara took Caleb to his kindergarten. The boy went reluctantly, still worried about his father's absence, but she tried to be cheerful and lively, not showing her own worries. At work, Ms. Vance invited her to the conference room, where the client was already waiting. A man in his 40s in a sharp suit with an attentive gaze. "Amara, meet Mr. Everett. He's opening a new company office and is looking for a designer." "Very nice to meet you, Mr. Everett." Amara extended her hand. "Ms. Vance has told me great things about you." Mr. Everett shook her hand. She felt nervous. It had been so many years since her last project. "Show me your portfolio," Mr. Everett requested. Amara took out her tablet with photos of her old work. He looked through them carefully, sometimes nodding, sometimes commenting. "Good," he finally said. "I like your style, understated, but with character. The office needs to be 2,100 square feet. Reception area, 3 private offices, a conference room, and a lounge for employees. We'll discuss the budget separately. When can you start?" "I'll need a few days to look at the space, take measurements, and prepare the first sketches." Amara tried to sound confident. "Excellent. Here is the address. You can go anytime. I'll leave the keys with security. I'll expect your ideas in a week." When Mr. Everett left, Amara sat at the table, unable to believe what was happening. A project, a real project, something she had dreamed about for years. "Can you handle it?" Ms. Vance asked. "I can handle it," Amara replied firmly. "I absolutely can." That evening, after tucking Caleb in, she pulled out her old design textbooks and opened the drafting software on her computer. Her hands trembled with excitement. This was a chance to get herself back, to prove that she wasn't just a discarded wife, but a professional, a person with talent. On Tuesday, Amara went to see the space. Empty white walls, large windows, high ceilings. She walked through the rooms, taking measurements, taking photos, and ideas were already forming in her head. Light tones, natural materials, lots of air and light. Functionality with a twist. She spent 2 hours there, sketching in her notebook. When she left, she felt alive, truly alive, for the first time in many years. At her evening workout at the fitness club, the instructor noticed a change. "Amara, you're doing great. I can already see a difference. Better posture, more confident movement." "Really?" Amara looked at herself in the mirror. It was true. Something had changed. Maybe not yet in her appearance, but in the way she carried herself, in her expression. "Absolutely. Keep up the good work. In a couple of weeks, you'll be unstoppable." At home, Amara stepped on the scale, -7 pounds in 2 weeks. It wasn't much, but it was a start. On Wednesday, Patricia Leek called. Her voice was cold, as always. "Amara, I want to see my grandson. I'll be there Saturday." "Fine," Amara replied calmly. "Come at 3 o'clock, and I want to speak to you alone." "About what?" "You'll see." Amara hung up with a heavy heart. What else had her mother-in-law cooked up? But she wouldn't let herself be intimidated, not now when she was just starting to get her life back. Thursday and Friday flew by as she worked on the project. Amara drew sketches, selected materials, drafted estimates, working late after Caleb was asleep. She forgot about food, about time, completely immersed in the creative work. By Saturday, her first version of the project was ready. She looked at the result and smiled. It was good, maybe even very good. On Saturday, exactly at 3, the doorbell rang. Patricia Leek stood on the threshold with a large bag of gifts for Caleb. "Hello," she said dryly, walking in. "Hello." Amara stepped aside. "Grandma." Caleb ran out of his room and hugged Patricia's legs. "Hello, my boy." Her mother-in-law stroked his head. "I brought you toys. Go look." Caleb grabbed the bag and ran to his room. Patricia took off her coat and walked into the kitchen as if she owned the place. "We need to talk," she said, sitting down at the table. "I'm listening." Amara sat opposite her. "Darius told me you want to file for divorce." "My attorney is preparing the petition. We'll file next week." Patricia pursed her lips. "You are destroying a family." "Darius destroyed the family when he took a mistress," Amara replied calmly. "Men make mistakes. You need to know how to forgive, how to turn a blind eye to some things. I lived that way my whole life with his father." "Perhaps that's why his father didn't respect you," Amara said quietly but firmly. "Forgiving infidelity over and over isn't strength, it's weakness. I don't want to live that way." "And how are you going to live?" A hint of anger entered Patricia's voice. "Alone with a child? You can't even take care of yourself. Look at yourself." "I am looking." Amara stood up and walked to the mirror in the hall. "And you know what I see? I see a woman who stopped hiding, who is fighting, who is coming back to life. Yes, I'm not skinny, but I'm working on myself, and I'm doing it for myself, not for your son." "Darius says you're demanding child support. Caleb has a right to be supported by his father. I'm not demanding it, it's the law." Patricia stood up, grabbed her handbag. "You'll regret this. Darius will hire a good lawyer. He'll sue you for custody of the boy." "Try it." Amara opened the door. "I have an attorney too, and the law is on my side." Her mother-in-law left without even saying goodbye to her grandson. Amara closed the door and leaned against it, breathing heavily. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. From adrenaline, from the realization that she hadn't given up, hadn't allowed herself to be bullied. Caleb peeked out of his room. "Mom, did Grandma leave?" "She left, sweetie." "Is she coming back?" "I don't know, maybe." "Can she not come back? She's always mean." Amara hugged her son. Maybe she just doesn't know how to show love in any other way. But to herself, she thought, maybe it really was better if Patricia Leek never appeared in their lives again. On Monday, Amara met with Mr. Everett to show him the first sketches for the project. She worried all the way to his office, checking the files on her tablet for the 100th time, adjusting her hair before the entrance. Mr. Everett carefully examined each sketch, zooming in on the image, looking at the details. Amara sat opposite him, clasping her hands on her lap, and waited. "Excellent," he finally said, setting the tablet down. "It's exactly what I wanted. Modern, but not cold. Functional, but with soul. When can you do the full rendering?" "By the end of the week," Amara answered, feeling everything inside her rejoice. She had done it. He liked it. "Perfect. And let's discuss the contract. Ms. Vance sent me your rates. I agree, plus a bonus if you finish on time." Leaving the office, Amara could barely suppress a smile. This was a victory, small but real. She felt like a professional again, a needed person, not just an unfortunate, abandoned wife. On the way home, Marcus Cole called her. "Amara, I have news. Darius has hired an attorney, a good one, by the way. They'll be trying to lower the child support amount and limit your rights to the marital property." "But the condo is mine," Amara protested. "I know, but they can demand compensation for the renovations that were done during the marriage or for investment in the condo. Don't worry, we're ready. We have all the documents confirming the condo was yours before the marriage. Just be prepared for the fact that the process might drag out." "Okay," Amara sighed. "Thanks for the warning." That evening, when she was tucking Caleb into bed, the boy suddenly asked, "Mom, does Daddy love me?" Amara sat on the edge of the bed and stroked her son's hair. "Of course he loves you, sweetie." "Then why doesn't he visit? Why doesn't he call?" Amara's heart sank. Darius hadn't called his son once the entire time. He hadn't asked how he was or offered to meet. "Daddy is very busy right now, but he will definitely call." "And if he doesn't call, then you have me, and I'll love you for both of us. Agreed?" Caleb nodded and hugged her. "You're the best mom in the world." Amara left the room with tears in her eyes. How could Darius? How could he just forget about his own child? She dialed his number. Long rings, then he hung up. She texted, "Caleb is waiting for your call. Can you at least talk to your son?" The reply came half an hour later. "Can't right now. Later." Amara threw the phone onto the sofa. Later? When was later? When the child completely stopped waiting. The next day at work, Ms. Vance called her in. "Amara, sit down. I want to talk to you." Amara tensed up. The tone was serious. "Mr. Everett is very happy with your work. He said he wants to keep working with you. He has several properties, and this is what I was thinking. Maybe you should transition to a staff designer position. The salary would be higher, plus a percentage of the projects." Amara blinked, unable to believe what she was hearing. "But I'm an accountant." "You were an accountant," Ms. Vance smiled. "And now you can become who you dreamed of being. I can see how passionate you are about this work. This is your calling. Think about it." "Okay." Amara walked out of the office in a state of shock. Staff designer. Her dream. The thing she had been striving for 20 years ago when she first graduated college. That evening at the gym, she ran on the treadmill, thinking about the offer. Could she do it? It was scary to trade the stability of accounting for the uncertainty of a creative career. But didn't she deserve to try? Wasn't it time to stop living in fear? After the workout, Irene, the instructor, walked up to her. "Amara, you've changed so much in these 3 weeks, and not just physically. You're more confident, stronger." "Thank you." Amara wiped the sweat from her forehead. "I feel it myself." "We have a support group at the club for women going through tough times. We meet once a week, share experiences, and support each other. Do you want to join?" Amara considered it. Another support group, but why not? Maybe there she would find new friends, people who understood her. "Yes, I do. Thank you." On Wednesday evening, the first meeting at the club took place. 5 women of different ages sat in a small room, drinking tea and sharing their stories. One was going through a divorce, like Amara. Another had lost her job and was battling depression. The third was recovering from an illness. Each had her own pain, but all were united by one desire: to keep living, not to give up. "I used to think that if my husband left, I would die," said one woman, Tamara, in her 50s. "We were together for 30 years, and then he left for his secretary. I didn't get out of bed for a month. Then I realized either I keep lying there or I start living. I chose life. Now I have my own small business. I travel and meet friends, and you know what? I'm happy. Truly happy. Maybe for the first time in my life." Amara listened and understood. She was on the right path. The pain wouldn't disappear right away, but life goes on, and she had a right to that life. On Thursday, Amara made her decision. She texted Ms. Vance, "I agree. I want to become the staff designer." The reply came instantly. "Excellent. We'll discuss the details tomorrow." That evening, Amara sat on the balcony with a cup of tea watching the sunset. 3 weeks ago, her world had crashed. She thought it was the end, but it turned out to be the beginning. The beginning of a new life she was building for herself. Her phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. "Hello, this is Darius's attorney. My client would like to discuss the terms of the divorce out of court. Are you willing to meet?" Amara read the message several times. So Darius was afraid of court. He decided to negotiate. Interesting. She dialed Marcus Cole's number. "Darius's attorney just texted me. He's proposing a meeting." "Good," the lawyer replied. "That's standard practice. I will be with you at the meeting. Don't worry, we won't let them take advantage of you." "Thank you." Amara hung up. She stood up from the chair and looked at her reflection in the window. The woman looking back at her was different. Not the one who stood by the window and cried 3 weeks ago. This one was stronger, more confident, more alive. "I can do this," she told her reflection. "I absolutely can." The meeting with Darius's attorney was scheduled for Friday at Marcus Cole's office. Amara prepared for it like an exam, rereading documents, rehearsing answers to potential questions, and choosing her outfit. She settled on a structured gray pantsuit she had bought before Caleb was born, which now almost fit her properly, minus 13 pounds in 3 weeks. The progress was visible. She arrived at the office 10 minutes early. Marcus Cole was already waiting for her, spreading all the necessary documents on the table. "The main thing is to stay calm," he instructed. "Don't react to provocations. Answer clearly and factually. We know our rights, and they know we know." Exactly at 2 o'clock, the door opened and 2 men entered. Darius's lawyer, a man in his 40s in an expensive suit with a cold gaze, and Darius himself. Amara hadn't seen him in almost a month. He looked tired and older. Shadows lay under his eyes. There was more gray in his hair. "Hello," the attorney said dryly, sitting across from them. "I represent Darius Leak. We would like to resolve the divorce issues out of court in a civilized manner." "We're listening to your proposals." Marcus Cole nodded. The attorney pulled out a folder of documents. "My client agrees to the divorce. He is prepared to pay child support in the amount of $1,000 monthly, which is significantly lower than the legal 25%, but given that he will soon have another child." 25% of income, Marcus Cole interrupted. "That's the law. Having another child does not negate the obligation to the first." "But be reasonable." The attorney leaned forward. "My client is ready to compromise. Additionally, he would like to discuss the division of property." "What property?" Amara couldn't hold back. "The condo is mine. I received it from my parents before the marriage." "But the renovations were done during the marriage." The attorney looked at the documents. "With joint funds. My client is entitled to compensation. We estimate it at $300,000. "That's absurd!" Marcus Cole pulled out his own papers. "The renovations were done 10 years ago. The depreciation is at least 50%. Moreover, your client lived in that condo for all those years rent-free, which already serves as compensation." The lawyers began to bicker, juggling numbers and legal articles. Amara sat and watched Darius. He avoided her gaze, constantly looking out the window or at his phone. "Darius," she called quietly. He flinched and looked up. "Did you think about Caleb even once? You haven't called him in almost a month. He's waiting. He asks about you every night." Darius shrugged. "I'm busy. I'll call soon." "Soon? When is soon? When your second child is born and you completely forget the first one." "Amara, stop." Marcus Cole tried to restrain her, but she couldn't stop. Everything that had been building up inside spilled out. "You chickened out, Darius. You were afraid of responsibility and you ran away. It was easier for you to start over with a young girl than to solve the problems in our family. You're selfish. You always have been." Darius stood up, his face red. "You drove me to it. Your attitude, your whining, your helplessness. I couldn't live like that anymore." "Then why didn't you leave sooner?" Amara also stood up. "Why did you wait until you found a replacement? Why did you humiliate me instead of honestly saying that the love was gone?" "Because I felt sorry for you," Darius yelled. "I thought you wouldn't make it on your own. I thought you would fall apart without me." "Well, I'm making it." Amara stepped toward him. "I didn't fall apart. Maybe you were just afraid that I would make it too well? That I would realize how easy it is to breathe without your constant criticism?" Silence fell. The lawyers exchanged glances. "I think we should take a break," Darius's attorney said. "I think we should proceed in court," Marcus Cole said firmly. "Gentlemen, we will see you in the courtroom." Darius grabbed his blazer and left without even saying goodbye. His lawyer gathered the documents and followed him. When the door closed, Amara sank into the chair, her hands shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I lost my temper." "It's all right." Marcus Cole poured her a glass of water. "Sometimes it's useful to say everything to his face. Now we know their position exactly. They will try to pressure you, to scare you, but they have a weak case. Don't worry. We will win this." Leaving the office, Amara felt a strange sense of relief. She had told Darius everything she thought. She hadn't stayed silent, hadn't endured it, hadn't swallowed the insult. She had spoken out, and it felt right. On the way home, Denise called her. "Amara, how was the meeting?" "Fine. He tried to negotiate, but we didn't give in." "That's my girl. Listen, are you free on Sunday? I want to introduce you to someone." "Who?" Amara tensed up. "My coworker, Jamal. He's a good guy, divorced, 2 kids, smart, decent. I think you'd have a lot to talk about." "Denise, it's too soon," Amara sighed. "I haven't even officially divorced yet." "I'm not talking about dating, just meeting. Maybe you'll become friends. You need to expand your social circle. You can't just stay home alone." Amara thought about it. Maybe it was time. Not for romance, of course, but for normal human interaction. "All right," she agreed. "I'll come." That evening, after Caleb was asleep, Amara sat at her computer, working on the rendering for Mr. Everett's project. The work engrossed her so much that she lost track of time, choosing colors, arranging furniture, and experimenting with lighting. At one point, she stopped and looked at the screen. It was beautiful, truly beautiful, maybe even better than her work from 10 years ago. She stood up, walked to the mirror, and looked at herself critically. Her face had slimmed down. Her cheekbones were more defined. Her eyes were no longer dull. They had a sparkle in them. Yes, she was still far from the slender girl she once was, but she was on her way, and most importantly, she felt alive again. Her phone vibrated. A text from Tamara, from the support group. "Girls, let's meet up on Saturday. Let's go to a cafe and have a heart-to-heart." Amara smiled and replied, "I'd love to." She went to sleep with the feeling that life was getting better. Slowly, gradually, but getting better. Saturday was sunny and warm. Amara met the women from the support group at a small, cozy cafe downtown. 6 of them gathered. Tamara, Irene from the fitness club, 2 women from the online group, and a newcomer who was just starting her path after divorce. They sat at a large table by the window, drank coffee, and shared updates. The atmosphere was warm, almost familial. Here, there was no need to pretend that everything was fine. Here, you could be yourself. I went to the theater yesterday for the first time in 6 months, one of the women, Natalie, was saying, alone. I used to think it was embarrassing to go anywhere without a partner. And you know what? I loved it. I watched the play without being distracted by anyone. I was completely immersed. It was wonderful. I signed up for English classes, another shared. I always wanted to learn, but my husband said it was a waste of time and money. Now no one tells me what to do. Amara listened and realized that each of them was reclaiming the right to her own life. Small steps, but they were moving forward. And I have news, Amara said. I'm changing jobs from accountant to designer. I'm going back to what I dreamed of 20 years ago. Wow, to courage, to new beginnings. Tamara raised her cup. They clinked cups, and Amara felt something inside her warm up. She had friends now, true friends who understood her without words. After the cafe, they walked around the shops. Irene dragged Amara into a sports store. You need proper workout clothes, she said, not those baggy sweatpants. You need to see your body, see how it's changing. That's what motivates you. Amara resisted, but Irene was adamant. In the end, they chose several sets, bright, beautiful leggings and tops. When Amara tried one on and looked at herself in the mirror, her first reaction was embarrassment. The leggings clung to her hips. The top highlighted her stomach. I don't like it, she said. Now look again. Irene stood beside her. Don't look at what you don't like. Look at what has already changed. See? Your legs are more toned. Your arms too. Your posture is better. You're not the same person you were a month ago. Amara looked closer. It was true. The changes were small, but they were there. I'll take it, she said decisively. That evening, unpacking her purchases at home, Amara caught herself smiling. Just because. For no reason. When was the last time she had smiled just because? Sunday began with a morning run. Amara got up early, while Caleb was still asleep, put on one of her new outfits, and went outside. She ran slowly, not for long, only 20 minutes, but it was her time, her effort, her victory over herself. After lunch, she went to Denise's house. Her cousin lived in a small house on the outskirts with a garden and a patio. When Amara arrived, there were already guests, several couples with children, grilling burgers and music playing. Amara, meet Jamal. Denise led a man in his 40s toward her. My coworker, the one I told you about. Jamal was tall, with a kind face and gentle eyes. He smiled and held out his hand. Very nice to meet you. Denise told me great things about you. Only good things, I hope, Amara said, shaking his hand. Exclusively. She says you're a talented designer. They talked easily and casually. Jamal worked as a programmer. He had divorced 2 years ago and was raising 2 children, a boy and a girl. He didn't ask uncomfortable questions, didn't pry. He just talked about himself and listened to her stories. You know what the hardest thing is after divorce? He asked when they were sitting on the patio with glasses of juice. Believing that you can be happy again, that life isn't over. For the first year, I was like a zombie. Work, kids, home, and that's it. Then I realized I couldn't live like that. I had to live for real. And how did you start? Amara asked. Small steps. I joined a swim club, started reading books I'd put off for years, met up with old friends. Then gradually, new hobbies and new people came along, and now it's 2 years later, and I'm happy in my own way, but happy. Amara listened and thought, maybe this is the recipe. Small steps. Do something for yourself every day. Don't wait for a big breakthrough. Just keep moving forward. When they were leaving that evening, Jamal said, It was really nice meeting you. Maybe we could meet up again sometime, just to talk. I feel like we're alike. We're both learning to live again. Yes, Amara agreed. Let's do that. They exchanged numbers. Amara didn't have any romantic feelings for Jamal, but there was now a person who understood her without words, and that was important. At home, a surprise awaited her. A note from Caleb lay on the table, drawn in colored pencils. "Mommy, you are the best. I love you." Next to it was a drawing of her and Caleb holding hands, with the sun, flowers, and a rainbow all around them. Amara pressed the drawing to her chest and smiled through her tears. This was what she was fighting for this boy, for their future together. That evening, after Caleb was asleep, Amara opened her laptop and checked her email. A message from Mr. Everett. "Amara, the rendering is superb. I'm thrilled. When can you start the project realization? And I have 2 more properties. I'd like to discuss the possibility of a permanent collaboration with you." Amara reread the email 3 times. Permanent collaboration, more projects. This meant a stable income and the opportunity to develop in the career she loved. She typed a reply, "I'm ready to start anytime. I'd be happy to discuss further collaboration." After sending the email, she leaned back in her chair and looked out the window. A month ago, her world had crashed. She thought it was the end, but it turned out to be the beginning. The beginning of a new life, her life. Her phone vibrated. A text from Jamal. "Thanks for a great evening. You're an amazing woman. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise." Amara smiled. Maybe she really was amazing. Maybe she always had been, and just forgot. 2 more weeks passed. Amara officially transitioned to the staff designer position, and her life changed drastically. Now she came to work not at 8 a.m. to sit over boring reports, but at 10 to meet clients, discuss projects, and execute ideas. The project for Mr. Everett was successfully launched, and he truly offered her 2 more properties, a cafe and a private home. Amara worked late, but it was a different kind of exhaustion, not draining, but invigorating. She had lost 33 pounds. The old jeans that hadn't zipped up for 6 months now fit loosely. Her face had thinned out. Her cheekbones were defined. In the mirror, she saw the woman she had almost forgotten, confident, lively, radiant. Jamal had become her friend. They texted almost every day, shared news, and sometimes met up for walks with the children. There was nothing romantic between them, but there was support, understanding, and friendship. One evening as they sat in the park, watching the children play on the playground, Jamal said, "You know, I look at you and I'm amazed. You've changed so much in a month and a half, and not just your looks. You're glowing from the inside out." "Really?" Amara smiled. "Truly. When we first met, you seemed broken, cornered. And now you're like a phoenix rising from the ashes." "Maybe that's what it is," Amara said thoughtfully. "Maybe I needed to burn down to the ground to start over." That evening, returning home, she took out the diary she had started after Darius left. She reread the first entries, full of pain, despair, and self-hatred. Then she read the last ones, about new projects, workouts, meetings with friends, and plans for the future, day 45. Today, for the first time in years, I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't turn away. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm no longer where I was, and that's the main thing. The next day, Marcus Cole called and reported that the court hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks from now. "Be ready," he warned. "Darius's lawyer will try to portray you as an unstable person, incapable of adequately caring for a child. We need proof to the contrary." "What kind of proof?" Amara asked anxiously. "A letter from your job about your new position and salary. A character reference from the kindergarten stating that you are a responsible mother. Maybe testimonials from neighbors or friends. Anything that proves your capability." Amara set about collecting the documents. Ms. Vance gladly wrote a character reference, noting her professionalism and responsibility. Caleb's teacher also provided a positive review. Her neighbor, Cheryl, agreed to testify, but most importantly, Amara felt strong. She was no longer afraid of the court. Let Darius and his lawyer try whatever they wanted. She had proof that she was a worthy mother and a capable person. A week before the hearing, Darius unexpectedly called. He didn't text, he called. "Amara, we need to talk." His voice sounded tired. "Don't talk over the phone. Let's meet, just the 2 of us, without the lawyers." Amara hesitated. Why did he want this? What was he planning? "Where and when?" Tomorrow at that coffee shop where we first met. Remember?" She remembered. The campus coffee shop near their old college. 20 years ago, they first spoke there, shared their first kiss. "All right, 6 p.m. The next day, Amara arrived at the coffee shop exactly at 6 p.m. Darius was already waiting at a table by the window. There were 2 cups of coffee in front of him, one with milk, one black. He remembered that she liked coffee with milk. "Hi," she said, sitting across from him. "Hi." Darius looked up at her, and she saw confusion in his eyes. You lost weight. You look good." "Thanks." An awkward silence hung between them. "Amara, I want to apologize," he finally managed, "for what I said to you, for how I treated you. It was wrong." Amara listened silently. "I was selfish. I only thought about myself, my desires, my ambitions. I forgot that I had a family, that I was responsible for you and Caleb." "Why are you telling me this now?" Amara asked. Darius ran a hand over his face. "Because I realized I made a mistake. Tiffany, she's not who I thought she was. When the pregnancy started, the tantrums, the demands started. She wants an expensive apartment, a car, a nanny for the baby. She constantly compares me to her friends' husbands. She says I don't earn enough." Amara chuckled. "And what do you want to hear from me? That I forgive you? That I'm ready to take you back?" I don't know," Darius admitted honestly. "I just realized that with you, things were good, stable, reliable. You never demanded more." "Because I didn't know I deserved more," Amara said quietly. "Because you convinced me that I was nothing special, that I was lucky you were with me at all. But you know what, Darius? I figured it out. You were the lucky one that I was with you all those years." Darius looked up, surprised. "For 20 years, I lived for you," Amara continued, feeling confidence surge inside her. "I adjusted to you, sacrificed my dreams, and ignored your flaws. And you ran away at the first sign of trouble. You found a young girl who seemed perfect to you. But you know what your problem is? You're looking for an ideal, and ideals don't exist. Tiffany isn't perfect, and the next woman won't be either." "Amara, no. Let me finish. I'm grateful to you for leaving. Truly. Because if you hadn't left, I would have stayed that scared, unhappy woman who thought she was unworthy of love. And now I realize I am worthy. I'm talented, strong, and beautiful. And I will find someone who appreciates that." Darius sat silently, speechless. Amara stood up, picked up her purse. "I don't want to ruin your life, Darius. I don't want revenge. I want justice. Child support for Caleb is your obligation, not a favor. You will remain his father, and I will never turn my son against you. But you and I are over, and we will never be together again." She walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. She walked down the street and for the first time in many months felt absolutely free. She had said everything she wanted to say. She was freed from the burden of the past. A week later, the court hearing took place. Amara came in her formal pantsuit with neat hair and light makeup. Marcus Cole sat beside her. All the necessary documents were laid out before them. Darius sat on the opposite side of the room with his attorney. He looked defeated and avoided looking her way. Darius's attorney tried to portray Amara as unstable, citing her medical leave for nervous exhaustion. But Marcus Cole easily countered, presenting letters about her new job, character references, and witness testimonials. "My client not only overcame a difficult life situation," he said, "but she emerged from it stronger and more accomplished. She changed to a more promising career, exercises, and is actively involved in her child's life. Meanwhile, the defendant has not called his son once in the month and a half since leaving the family, nor has he shown interest in his life." The judge carefully reviewed the documents, asked questions, and then announced a recess to reach a decision. Amara went out into the hallway and sat on a bench. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, but from tension, from the awareness that her future was being decided right now. Jamal texted, "How's it going? Everything will be fine. I believe in you. Tamara wrote, "Hang in there, friend. You're strong." Denise, "I'm with you, sis." Amara smiled. She had support, real, sincere support from people who believed in her. Half an hour later, they were called back into the courtroom. The judge read the decision. The marriage between the parties is dissolved. The minor child will continue to live with the mother. The father is obligated to pay child support at 25% of his earnings monthly. The visitation schedule with the child is every other weekend and 1 month of summer vacation. No division of marital property is to be made, as the real estate belonged to the plaintiff before the marriage. Amara exhaled. Victory. A full, unconditional victory. Leaving the courthouse, she saw Darius standing by his car. He was smoking, though he never used to smoke. "Amara!" he called out. She stopped. "Can I call Caleb tonight?" "Of course. He'll be happy. And I truly want to be involved in his life. I'll visit, as the court ordered." "Good." Amara nodded. "He needs that. He needs a father." "You really look incredible," Darius suddenly said. "You didn't just lose weight. You're different, strong, confident." "I was an idiot." "You were," Amara agreed. "But you know what? I'm glad everything happened this way. If you hadn't left, I never would have known what I was capable of. I never would have returned to my true self." She turned and walked toward the subway. She didn't look back. That chapter of her life was closed. That evening at home, Amara held Caleb and sat beside him on the sofa. "Sweetie, we need to talk. Today was the court hearing. Your dad and I are officially not married anymore, but you are still his son, and he loves you. He'll be visiting you every 2 weeks, and you'll spend time together." "And you won't be sad?" Caleb asked, hugging her. "No, baby, I won't be sad, because I have you, and I also have a job that I love, and friends, and a new life, and we are going to be happy, I promise." "Then I won't be sad either," Caleb decided. "Mom, is Daddy really going to call?" "He is. Tonight." And Darius really did call. Amara handed the phone to Caleb and went out onto the balcony, giving them privacy to talk. She stood there, watching the city, listening to her son's voice as he excitedly told his father about kindergarten, his new toys, and how he and his mother went to the park. Her phone vibrated. A text from Mr. Everett. "Amara, I want to offer you the position of chief designer for my company. We're opening a design bureau. Interested?" Amara reread the message several times. Chief designer, her own bureau. It was more than a dream. It was a completely new life. She texted back, "Very interested. Let's discuss the details." Then she sat down in the balcony chair, wrapped her arms around her knees, and smiled. A month and a half ago, she had been standing by the window, not knowing how to live. She thought her life was over. She thought she was a useless, fat, pathetic woman. And now she was free. She had an interesting job, career prospects, a loving son, and true friends. She had lost 33 pounds and was continuing to work on herself, not for her ex-husband, not to prove anything to anyone, but for herself. The next morning, when Darius came to retrieve his last items from the storage closet, he saw a note on the table. He unfolded it, read it, and a chill ran down his spine. "Darius, when you walked out, I thought I would die. I thought I wouldn't survive it, that my world had crashed. But you know what happened? I didn't die. I came back to life. While you were with me, I forgot who I truly was. I forgot about my dreams, my talents, my strength. I dissolved into the role of your wife. I lost myself. You humiliated me for gaining weight. You called me a cow. You left for a younger mistress. And you know what I am grateful to you for? For forcing me to wake up. I didn't lose weight for you. I didn't find my dream job to spite you. I didn't become happy because I wanted to prove anything to you. I did all of it for me because I realized I deserve it. You were looking for someone young and beautiful. You found her. I hope you're happy. And me? I found myself, and that is worth more than any relationship. Thank you for leaving. It was the best gift you could have given me. P.S. I'm opening my own design bureau, what I dreamed of 20 years ago. Better late than never. Goodbye, Darius. Amara. Darius stood with the note in his hands, and everything inside him constricted. He had lost this woman, lost her forever, and suddenly, with horrifying clarity, he understood. He hadn't lost a pathetic, beaten-down housewife. He had lost a strong, talented, amazing woman who simply needed a chance to spread her wings, and now it was too late. She had flown away and would never return. You know, looking back, I realized that losing everything wasn't the end. It was the beginning of finding myself. Sometimes life has to break you open so you can finally see what's inside. Pain changes you, yes, but it also shapes you. I used to think I needed someone else to make me feel whole, but now I know I was always enough. And if you're going through something similar, please remember, you are stronger than you think, and it's never too late to start again. If you agree with me and enjoyed my story, show it by giving this video a like. Let's see how many of us there are. I'm curious, where are you listening from, and what time is it there? Write it in the comments. If you'd like to support my journey, you can send me a small donation. Thank you for listening and sharing your precious time with me. For more life stories like this, check out the other videos on my channel and subscribe. On the screen, you'll see 2 new life stories I'm sure you'll love. Click one and keep listening. Love to you all. Betty.